week's video. This is the last video of the year of my weekly gig diaries or vlogs, trying to give you an idea of what it's like to be a professional musician working in the UK. Now, coming up on this week's video, I display the reactions of a fighter pilot, admittedly in a far less dangerous situation than if I actually were a fighter pilot. And keeping it seasonal, also coming up, me wearing a nice red shirt and playing a pink guitar for Christmas.
Blue, blue, blue Christmas.
So this is the last video of the year, and I'd like to thank everyone who has watched my videos throughout the year and supported my channel. I very much appreciate it. I like getting comments and having some conversations with people who have watched the videos. Very enjoyable. It makes it worthwhile doing it. So thanks again for watching, and please continue to watch. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit subscribe, then you'll know when my new videos are coming out. In the week leading up to Christmas, I realised an ambition that I've had for about 30 years. Now, to give a bit of backstory to this, 30 years ago I walked into a pub in a town called Arundel, which is near where I grew up. It's on the or near the south coast of England. It's kind of, if you look at a map, it's between Brighton and Portsmouth. And I walked in and there were these two guys playing. Now, there's this really cool singer playing a 12-string acoustic guitar with this amazing gravelly voice, and this other guy playing the most amazing guitar I'd ever heard. In the interval, I went up to this guitarist and spoke to him, and he was absolutely lovely, and he spent the whole of his interval showing me stuff on the guitar. Anyway, as it transpired, that guitarist turned out to be none other than Big Jim Sullivan. Now, if you don't know who he is, look him up, but just to give a sort of potted history, he was the session guitarist in the 60s and 70s. He played with Marty Wilde, Tom Jones. In fact, here's a little clip from him playing on the Tom Jones show with Jerry Reed.
Jump on it. For those of you who watch the show regularly, you'll recognize the guitar picker with Big Jim. He was on one of the shows we did back in the States, and he really tore it up. When I found out he was here in London on a flying trip, I rang him up, asked him to do the fastest return guest appearance we've ever had. Ladies and gentlemen, the guitar man himself, Jerry Reed.
Now, Big Jim also taught a teenage Richie Blackmore, as well as being one of the most sought-after session guitarists at the time. And obviously to be able to walk into a pub and see something like that was pretty incredible. Now, he lived not far from where I lived, and he just used to go out and do pub gigs. And the guitarist he played with, or the singer playing the 12-string guitar, was Willie Austen. Together they were called Big Jim and Little Willie. And Willie Austen's absolutely fantastic, and he still gigs around the area, and I've always wanted to do a gig with him. And thanks to my friend Glenn, who you have seen in my videos before. Now, here's a photo of us standing in front of an Eddie Van Halen guitar. He knows Willie very well and introduced the two of us a couple of months ago, and finally Willie gave me a call and offered me a gig, which I was really chuffed to be doing. So as well as talking about this gig that I was very pleased to be doing and I've wanted to do for such a long time, I'm going to use it to highlight the fact that sometimes when you turn up to do a gig, you don't know the people in the band, and sometimes you're not even given a list of songs. And this amazes some people, musicians and non-musicians. They say, how do you do that? You turn up with people that you've never met before and played a load of songs that you didn't know you were going to have to play. Well, someone recently, someone I was playing with, and I can't remember who it was, otherwise I would credit them, said it's a bit like, you know, if you're a plumber, you don't rehearse fixing a washer on a tap. It's something you do all the time. So obviously there are gigs where you can't just turn up and play. You know, if I was asked to go and play in a Yes tribute band, I think that would require rather a lot of practice before I turned up. Or if you're going to play in a West End musical or something, you can't just rock up and do it. But for certain gigs, cover gigs, the bands are kind of designed so people can just play up who know the material. There's a kind of set number of songs that most people know. You're never going to know everything, but you'll probably know the majority of stuff. And when I turned up to this gig, I didn't have a set list at all. And actually, this used to happen much more frequently than it does now. As I've got older, I'm more worried about wanting to know what's coming up. But it was brilliant to just turn up and not have a single clue what we're going to play. I did have some idea because I'd seen Willie play before, so I knew the kind of stuff he did and knew I wasn't going to be completely flummoxed by the whole thing. So I'm going to show you a few clips outlining how I got round this. So this first clip, this is the very first song we're doing, and up until this point, although I'd played a few chords and I was playing along with the verse of this song. Up until this point, Willie really was only going on Glenn's recommendation. He had no idea whether I could actually play until he turned to me and got me to do a solo in the first song. So I'm just going to show that interaction and my first solo, and probably his look of relief knowing that he wasn't stuck on a gig with someone who couldn't play. Here we go, here's another example. Willie starts playing Pretty Woman. Now, I'm not sure I've ever played this song live, I might have done, but I learnt the Van Halen version a long time ago, maybe 30 years ago, so that's how I knew it. There we are, it came out the memory banks. Here's Pretty Woman. And then out of this song, Willie segued into another song, and I didn't know what it was. He was just strumming an E chord. And then, of course, when he started singing the verse, I knew what it was. And I immediately jumped on the guitar parts, which I know. I would have known these by ear anyway. But I think I did play this song, actually, a few months ago in a band for the first time. But there we go. Sometimes you just know these songs, they crop up. They're fairly obvious songs that lots of people know. Now this is my favourite clip. This is one of my favourite moments from the gig. I showed it at the beginning of the video. Willie started strumming G, C, D, and I didn't know what the song was because lots of songs start like that. And he turned around and went, Brown Eyed Girl. And my hand just happened to be in the right place. And I've played this song millions of times, so I knew exactly what it was. So he went, Brown Eyed Girl, and I could start it immediately, which just a bit of luck really. My hand was in the right place, but I could see he was pretty like, oh, blimey, wasn't expecting you to start it that quick. So here we go, here's that clip. And now I'm going to show you a solo I played on a song that I'd never ever played before. It's I Don't Want to Talk About It by Rod Stewart. Now I know the song and I very much like the song, but I'd never played it before, and this is a good example of how sometimes when you're really you know, on the spot, never having played the song before, sometimes some really good things can happen. Sometimes some absolutely dreadful things can happen. You can make a complete dog's breakfast of it, but luckily in this case I think I did a pretty good job. So I'm going to show you this solo. I actually did two solos in this song. The second solo I did I'm going to show at the end of the video, so you'll have to watch to the end if you want to see that one, but this was the first solo I did. just to make sure that we keep all the nerdery in check, I'm playing on here my Danny Gatton Telecaster. I actually took my Stratocaster, but there was a weird interference in the room, and I was getting, I think, the piped music or the local radio station or something coming through my amplifier picked up on my guitar pickups. That's something that hasn't happened for a long time, but the Joe Barden pickups on my Telecaster didn't seem to have the problem, which influenced my guitar selection. I had to play the Telecaster because I wasn't getting funny noises through the amp. And I'm playing through my standard pedal board with my H9. Any effects you hear on there pretty much are the H9. I might have used my other delay. I've done more videos on the H9 as I've only had it a couple of months, so if you look back through my other videos you'll see some more examples of my presets and stuff on that. And I'm going into my Milkman pedal steel mini amplifier, which I've also done some videos on if you want to have a look at those. And onto the other gig I did in the week leading up to Christmas. This is an annual gig I do with Suspiciously Elvis. It's at the Comedia, which is a venue in Brighton, which is near where I live. I really look forward to this gig all year. We only did one this year, unfortunately. Normally we do at least two, but because of the World Cup football, etc., they didn't have as many nights available, so we only did the one night. But it was great fun, so I'm going to show you a few clips. This is the opening song, CC Rider. I always get to do a solo in this one. And this is my Paisley Telecaster. It's the Japanese copy of James Burton's 1969 Paisley Telecaster, going through my standard pedal board with my H9 providing the slapback into my pedal steel mini again. So you can hear the difference between that and the Danny Gatton Telecaster on the last clip. Here we go, CC Rider. Then we have to do a few Christmas songs. This one is Blue Christmas, and it has a very nice ending, which I showed you at the beginning of the video, which is a bit of fun.
Oh, but I have a blue Christmas. Play some Tom over there. Blue Christmas.
And then this last clip, this is the only one I get to use a bit of wah-wah on one of a couple of songs when the band gets introduced. So just a bit of a solo, which I thought I might show you.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit, ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a bird, crying tomahawk on the guitar. Play the guitar, man.
Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much if you've been watching all year. I really do appreciate it. Please hit subscribe if you haven't, then you'll get notified when my new videos are coming out. I shall continue to release weekly videos in the new year. They come out at 7 PM on a Friday, 7 PM UK time. I'm going to continue with some gig diaries, and I've got some other ideas for some content as well, so watch this space. Some more exciting stuff coming up in the new year, and thanks again for watching, and Happy New Year.